I have finally figured it out. I have found the solution to NBC's problem with the Olympics. And just in case you didn't know, and judging by the ratings, most of you don't, but the Winter Olympics, they're going on right now. Actually, they've been going on for over a week. NBC has been swimming in a river of regret for wasting nearly $8 billion for the exclusive rights to broadcast the Olympics over the next 10 years. Now, in my opinion, that money would have been far better spent trying to get more broadcast rights to the NFL. Hell, at this point, it would be more profitable for NBC to air reruns of Friends and Seinfeld than continue to broadcast the dying Olympics. But have no fear, executives at NBC, I have found the solution to your ratings problem. Turns out, all you needed to do was have the Super Bowl as your lead in. That is the solution to your problem. Broadcast the Super Bowl every night before the Olympics, and you'll get credit for the millions of people who left their TVs tuned into NBC after the game. The Super Bowl Sunday night could not have come at a better time for NBC. Not only have ratings for the Olympics been disastrous, but NBC as a whole continues to be beaten in the ratings for other programming. The Today Show, for example. Typically during the Olympics, the Today Show sees a spike in viewership. For the first time since 1992, Good Morning America on ABC is beating the Today Show in the ratings during the Olympics. As expected, ratings for the Super Bowl Sunday night were massive. The NFL was a ratings juggernaut all season long, much to the chagrin of the mainstream media. The league, they averaged between 15-20 million on Fox and CBS. Handful of regular season games had over 30 million. Couple even eclipsed 40 million. All throughout the playoffs, we were seeing 35, 40, 45 million viewers. The NFL, the league is set up the way a league is supposed to be set up. Contracts are not guaranteed, they're incentive laden. Players don't hold all the power. It creates competitive balance. More importantly, NFL fans follow teams and not players. When Michael Jordan retired from the NBA, it was catastrophic. Tom Brady retires from the NFL, Roger Goodell doesn't blink an eye. It's news for 1 or 2 days, everyone moves on. Tom Brady's retirement will have zero impact on the NFL's television ratings. The total audience for the Super Bowl Sunday night, over 112 million viewers. Now that number includes NBC, Telemundo, streaming, all that bullshit. NBC alone accounted for damn near 100 million people. Basically, nearly a third of the country was watching the Super Bowl. Now notice I didn't say out-of-home viewership was included in that number. I couldn't find any information on out-of-home viewership for the Super Bowl, and I haven't seen that information at any point when we've discussed NFL ratings this year. I guess Nielsen and the mainstream media, they only consider out-of-home viewership when accounting for NBA ratings. Lord knows, the league needs all the help and support they can get. NBC, they had cause for further celebration Sunday night. On the surface, anyway. The Super Bowl lead-in led to the biggest ratings we have seen thus far for the Winter Olympics. Hell, not just the Winter Olympics. Sunday night, NBC had its largest Olympic audience since 2018. Over 21 million people failed to grab their remote and remained on NBC for the Olympics Sunday night. Now, I'm sure this is being celebrated in Rockefeller Center. We are back. We're going to carry this audience through the rest of the Olympics. We can finally extort more money from advertisers. I'm not seeing the positivity here. The way I see it, not only did 79 million people immediately change the channel after the Super Bowl, but even with the best lead-in television, the Olympics still failed to beat the largest audience in 2018. The largest audience for the Winter Olympics in 2018, over 22 million. Now, to be fair, NBC was up 4 million viewers compared to the same time slot in 2018. But back then, there was no Super Bowl lead-in. If this is not proof that the majority of Americans are boycotting the Olympics because of China, I don't know what is. Think about it. Most people, they watch the Super Bowl with family and friends, Super Bowl parties. There was nothing else on television Sunday night. No college basketball, no NBA, NHL. Nothing wants to compete against the Super Bowl. You don't turn on reruns of Real Housewives of Nova Scotia at a Super Bowl party. So the only thing left on television to watch for that kind of environment was the Olympics. Yet 79 million people told NBC thanks, but no thanks. The news for NBC heading into the Super Bowl was already disastrous. Friday night, 8.6 million people watched the Olympics, down nearly 50% from 2018. Saturday night was even worse, 8.2 million. Remember that slogan NBC used to use in the 90s? Must see TV? I guess that fucking ship has sailed. This past weekend, the Olympics drew less people than the NBA Finals by over 2 million people. Maybe NBC needs to call a plastic surgeon to fix this problem. Plastic surgeons nowadays, they can work miracles, but no amount of plastic surgery can fix ugly. Oh, and it gets even worse. I went back the last 2 years, checked the programming that aired immediately after the Super Bowl. Last year, CBS aired the series premiere of The Equalizer. Over 20 million people watched. KC, this is great news. The Olympics drew 21 million. Like I say, you have to put the number in perspective. The Equalizer was a brand new television show. They didn't have an established audience built in over a number of years, or in the case of the Olympics, a number of decades. A brand new show on CBS drew 1 million less viewers than the Olympics. Last year, Fox aired a new episode of The Masked Singer. The Masked Singer. I've never watched the show, but it sounds like some bullshit. Better bullshit than the Olympics, though, because nearly 4 million more people watched The Masked Singer last year than bothered to watch the Olympics Sunday night. Let me tell you something about us Americans that the media just doesn't seem to understand. And I'm not generalizing here. I'm not talking about all Americans. I'm just talking about us normal people. You know, those of us who think logically instead of politically. When we like something, when we are emotionally invested in something, we will put up with a lot of shit. I like to compare our affinity or our love of sports to personal relationships. When you're really feeling a girl, or for my ladies out there, when you're emotionally attached to a dude, all of us will tolerate things that we just wouldn't normally put up with. But there is a limit to that toleration. There's no such thing as unconditional love in relationships. The only unconditional love is the love between a parent and a child. All relationships are built on conditions. Psychologists, they like to call them needs. You can fail to meet someone's needs for a while, but over time, when needs aren't met, resentment starts to build. Once you've had enough of the resentment, enough of being unfulfilled, you're done. And when you're done, you're done. There's no going back. Now, maybe in a few months or a few years, when you only remember the good about the relationship, maybe you can rekindle and get back together. But most of the time, when we're done, we're done. It's the same dynamic with sports. The NFL. The NFL is the most popular league in the country. What happened when Colin Kaepernick kneeled for the national anthem? The NFL lost 20% of its audience. The NFL, now to their credit, they rectified the situation somewhat. The audience came back. But look at the NBA. Over time, the NBA has failed to meet the needs of its audience. They doubled down on social justice, called their audience racist. By the time Adam Silver tried to fix the damn problem, it was too fucking late. The casual audience was done with the NBA. Now, that doesn't mean they won't return in a few years, but once you lose an audience, it is extremely difficult to get them back. The same thing has been happening with the Olympics. People have been fed up with the IOC and their love of communist dictators for a while now. Last summer, they allowed the Summer Olympics to be one giant woke orgy. Ratings dipped, and they dipped. They didn't listen. The Winter Olympics, they haven't been as political from a social justice perspective, but the stain of China has turned millions of people away. NBC and the IOC, they knew this for months going in, maybe even years. They didn't listen. Like I said, you can only ignore people for so long until they're completely done with you. And it seems to me, millions of people are done with the Olympics. All right, let me know what you guys think. Give me your thoughts on the monster Super Bowl rating and the Olympics continuing to die a slow, painful death. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.